The silence is the loudest thing in the apartment right now. Louder than the faint buzz of the refrigerator, louder than the traffic outside. It's a heavy, suffocating silence that presses in on me from all sides. There's a half-eaten bowl of chips on the coffee table, a few stray plastic cups sticky with dried wine. A single silver balloon, one of the ones I insisted on buying, is starting to sag against the ceiling, looking as tired and defeated as I feel. Silas would have cleaned this up by now. He hated waking up to a mess, but Silas isn't here. I keep staring at the little ceramic dish by the door. The one where he always dropped his keys and his wallet the second he walked in. It's empty, it's so fucking empty. His toothbrush is gone from the bathroom holder. His worn-out running shoes are missing from the mat. It's like he was never here except for the screaming silence he left behind. He packed a bag and walked out 12 hours ago. He blocked my number, he blocked me on every app. My last message to him sits there with a single gray tick, undelivered, and it's all because of a joke. A stupid throwaway joke I told at my own party in my own home to make a few people laugh. I don't understand how a few words could burn an entire life to the ground. But here I am, sitting in the ashes, and I can't even feel the heat. We were good. I know people say that after it's all gone to hell, a little coat of paint on a rotting memory, but we really were. Silas was solid, that's the best word for him. He was my anchor in the swirling chaos of my own life. I work in PR, and my days are a frantic mess of managing egos, putting out fires, and pretending to be thrilled about the launch of a new flavor of sparkling water. I'd come home, my brain buzzing with a toxic cocktail of caffeine and anxiety, and Silas would just be there. He'd have a cup of tea ready for me, not asking too many questions, just letting his calm presence untangle the knots in my shoulders. He worked as a data analyst for a pension fund, a job I found mind-numbingly dull but that he found deeply satisfying. He liked routine, the comforting certainty of numbers. He ran the same 3-mile loop every morning, bought the same brand of coffee, and called his mom every Sunday at 4 p.m. My friends thought he was boring, I thought he was peace. My world, especially lately, has been the opposite of peace. For the past year, I've been obsessed with breaking into the inner circle at my firm, a clique led by our creative director, Chloe. They're the cool kids, effortlessly witty, devastatingly stylish, and armed with a kind of casual, biting humor that could cut you down without you even realizing you were bleeding. Their currency was anecdotes, the more self-deprecating or shocking, the better. They'd trade stories of terrible dates, dysfunctional family holidays, and embarrassing moments like they were baseball cards. I wanted in so badly it was like a physical ache. I started dressing like them, adopting their vocal fry, trying to match their cynical, detached energy. I was performing constantly, and it was exhausting. Silas saw it. He never judged me for it, not out loud, but I'd see a flicker of concern in his eyes when I'd come home buzzing about some backhanded compliment from Chloe. There was one thing, though, that he was absolutely rigid about. We had the conversation about 6 months ago, after a dinner with one of my work friends who'd spent the entire meal mocking her husband's new, earnest attempt at pottery. Later that night, as we were getting ready for bed, Silas turned to me, his face unusually serious. "Briar," he said, his voice low, "I need you to know I can't do that. I can't be in a relationship where we use each other as punchlines for other people." He sat on the edge of the bed. "My dad used to do that to my mom at parties. He'd tell everyone these little funny stories that were just designed to humiliate her. How she burned the Thanksgiving turkey, how she got lost driving to a place 5 minutes away. Everyone would laugh, this big, booming sound, and she would just shrink. I watched her disappear little by little, right in front of everyone. It's how their marriage died. Not with a bang, but with 1,000 little cuts in front of an audience." He looked right at me, and his gaze was so direct, so vulnerable, it almost hurt to see. "That's my one red line, our private life, our respect for each other, that's sacred. It's not material for your colleagues." I remember nodding, feeling a flush of shame, and promising him I understood. I promised him I would never, ever do that to him. And in that moment, sitting in the safety of our bedroom, I meant it. I really, truly did. The party was my magnum opus, the culmination of months of strategic lunch invitations and carefully curated compliments. It was the first time I'd managed to get Chloe and her entire crew to my apartment. My apartment, our apartment. I spent 2 days cleaning obsessively, bought cheese I couldn't pronounce, and curated a playlist that I hoped screamed effortlessly cool, and not. I spent 8 hours on this. I was a nervous wreck, my smile stretched so tight I thought it might crack. Silas was, as always, a rock. He helped me set everything up, arranged the bar, and greeted my colleagues with a genuine warmth that I was too anxious to fake. For the first hour, it was fine. The music was good, the wine was flowing. I was watching Chloe hold court in our living room and I felt a dizzying sense of arrival. I was in. Then it happened. We were all gathered in a loose circle and the conversation had turned to relationships. Someone was telling a story about their boyfriend's terrible taste in movies. Chloe, swirling her wine, turned her laser-like attention on me. "So, Briar," she said, her voice dripping with playful condescension, "how on earth did you manage to tame this one? Silas seems so serious. Does he even own a pair of jeans?" A few people chuckled. It was a test. A spotlight had been thrown on me, and the entire tribe was waiting to see how I'd perform. My heart hammered against my ribs. All my insecurities, my desperate need to impress these people, surged into my throat. I had a joke ready. I'd thought of it a week ago, a stupid, mean little thing I'd filed away for an occasion just like this. This was my moment to prove I was one of them, that I wasn't just the serious guy's boring girlfriend. I took a deep breath, smiled a bright, brittle smile, and said, "Oh, he's serious about everything. You should see his spreadsheets for our household budget. But I'll let you in on a secret." I leaned in conspiratorially, my voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "He's not quite so detail-oriented in the bedroom. More of a broad strokes kind of guy, if you know what I mean." I finished it with a wink. The silence that followed lasted only a second, but it felt like an eternity. It was a vacuum, a total absence of sound. Then Chloe let out a sharp, barking laugh. It broke the spell, and suddenly her whole circle was roaring. They were slapping their knees, wiping away fake tears. "Oh my God, Briar, you're savage," someone yelled. I felt a disgusting, intoxicating rush of validation. I had done it. I had made the cool kids laugh. Through the noise, I looked for Silas. He was standing by the bookshelf where he'd been quietly talking to one of my junior colleagues. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the floor. When he finally lifted his head, his eyes met mine across the room. There was no anger in his face, no outrage, there was just nothing. A complete and total void. It was a look of such profound, bottomless disappointment that it physically knocked the air out of my lungs. He held my gaze for a moment longer, and in that look, I saw every promise I'd ever made to him turn to dust. Then, without a word, he turned and walked into our bedroom, closing the door softly behind him. The laughter died down, replaced by the low hum of conversation. Chloe gave my shoulder a squeeze. "Nicely played," she whispered before turning her attention to someone else. For a while, I floated on the adrenaline. I told myself it was fine. He was just being sensitive. He's an introvert, big parties overwhelm him. He'd get over it. I poured myself another glass of wine, the cheap, acidic taste doing nothing to calm the frantic hummingbird in my chest. I tried to rejoin conversations, laughing a little too loudly, my eyes constantly flickering towards the closed bedroom door. The party started to thin out an hour later. The energy had shifted into that weird post-peak awkwardness. People left in small groups, giving me air kisses and murmuring thanks. "Great party, Briar. So fun," but their eyes wouldn't quite meet mine. It was the first sign. They'd gotten their entertainment for the evening and now they were gone. By the time the last person left, it was almost 2 a.m. The apartment was a disaster zone of empty bottles and discarded napkins. The silence that rushed in to fill the void was terrifying. I took a deep breath and walked to the bedroom door, my heart pounding a slow, heavy rhythm against my ribs. I turned the knob. He was zipping up a duffel bag on the bed he'd packed methodically. His laptop, a few changes of clothes, his toiletries. He wasn't frantic or angry, he was calm. It was the terrifying calm of a decision already made. "Silas?" My voice was a pathetic squeak. He didn't look at me. He walked over to the nightstand and placed his apartment key next to my lamp. The small metallic clink was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. "What are you doing? It was just a joke." "A stupid joke," I pleaded, the words tumbling out. "I'm sorry. I was trying to be funny. It was for them, it wasn't about you, not really." He finally turned to face me, and his expression was completely flat. "But it was about me, Briar," he said, his voice even and devoid of any emotion. "You took something that was ours, and you sold it for a cheap laugh to a group of people who don't even know your middle name. You stood there in our home, and you chose them over me." He picked up his bag. "I told you what my line was, you didn't just cross it, you set it on fire and danced on the ashes." He started for the door. I scrambled in front of him, grabbing his arm. "Please, Silas, don't do this, we can talk about this." He gently removed my hand from his arm. "There's nothing to talk about. We're done." And then he was gone. He walked out the door and didn't look back. I stood there frozen for a full minute before I lunged for my phone. I typed a frantic, misspelled apology. "I'm so sorry, please come back," the message sent. A second later, the blue tick turned to a single, stark gray one. "Undelivered, user blocked." My blood ran cold. I tried to call him, the call didn't even ring, straight to a recorded message. I scrambled through my apps, Instagram, blocked, Facebook, blocked. He had surgically, efficiently, and completely excised me from his life in less than 5 minutes. It wasn't a fight, it was an amputation. The next few days were a blur of denial and panic. I existed in a fog, moving through the motions of life while a constant, high-pitched scream echoed in my head. I called his phone 100 times a day, as if my sheer persistence could break through the digital wall he'd built. Each time, the automated voice felt like a fresh slap in the face. I left him rambling, tearful voicemails that I knew he'd never listen to. I went to the coffee shop on his corner, the one he went to every morning, and sat there for 2 hours, nursing a cold latte until the barista started giving me pitying looks. He never showed up. My first instinct was to activate the network I had so desperately tried to impress. I texted Chloe, "Hey, having a really rough time with the Sila's situation. Has he said anything to anyone?" Her reply came hours later. A single, infuriatingly cheerful thumbs up emoji followed by, "OMG, that's awful, hang in there girly," that was it. I tried another friend from the group, Olivia. I called her, my voice cracking. "I'm really freaking out, Liv. I don't know what to do. He's just gone." "Oh, wow. That's intense," she said, her voice laced with the unmistakable discomfort of someone who does not want to be involved. "Listen, I'm just walking into a meeting. Let me call you back later." She never did. One by one, I reached out to the people I had performed for, the audience for my grand, self-destructive act. The responses ranged from awkward silence to breezy, meaningless platitudes. They weren't my friends, I was just a story they'd tell at brunch. "Did you hear about Briar?" "So crazy." The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. I had traded a king for a handful of jesters, and now the jesters had left the building. The panic curdled into a deep, gnawing despair. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. The apartment felt vast and hostile. Every object was a monument to him, his favorite mug in the cupboard. The book he'd left on the nightstand, a bookmark halfway through. On the third day, I forced myself to clean. I needed to do something, anything, to stop the screaming in my head. I started with his desk, a place I rarely touched. It was neat, organized, just like him. I wiped down the surface, straightened a stack of papers. My hand brushed against the handle of the top drawer, and on a whim, I pulled it open. Inside, nestled between a stack of pay stubs and his passport, was a small, dark blue velvet box. I think I stopped breathing. My fingers trembled as I lifted it out. It was heavy, solid. I opened it. Inside, on a bed of white satin, was a simple, elegant engagement ring with a single, perfect sapphire. It was the exact style I'd pointed out in a vintage shop window months ago, a passing comment I'd completely forgotten. My knees gave out. I sank to the floor, the box clutched in my hand. Tucked underneath it in the drawer was a folded piece of paper. It was a printout. An itinerary for a 2-week trip to Tuscany booked for next month. Underneath the flight details was a dinner reservation at a restaurant overlooking Florence. The date was my birthday. He was going to propose. He was building a future for us, a beautiful, solid, real future, while I was busy crafting cheap jokes to impress people I didn't even like. The ring wasn't just a ring, it was proof. It was the tangible evidence of the life I had just burned to the ground. I sat on the floor, surrounded by the wreckage, and I finally started to cry. It wasn't a loud, dramatic sob, but a silent, convulsive weeping that felt like it was tearing me apart from the inside out. It's been 3 weeks. The initial, frantic panic has subsided, replaced by a dull, persistent ache that lives just behind my ribs. The apartment is clean now. Too clean. It feels sterile, like a hotel room. I've packed all his things into boxes and shoved them into the back of the closet. I couldn't bring myself to throw them away, but I can't stand to look at them either. The ring box is hidden in my sock drawer. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I take it out and just hold it, the velvet smooth and cool against my skin. It feels like holding a ghost. My life has shrunk. At work, I keep my head down. The laughter from Chloe's corner of the office sounds different now, sharp and alien. I see the pity in my boss's eyes. I'm no longer the fun, edgy girl on the rise. I'm a cautionary tale. The friends I sacrificed everything for now treat me with a careful, awkward distance. I am a social liability, a reminder of a party trick gone horribly wrong. I have never felt so completely and utterly alone. My nights are the worst. I fall into the black hole of the internet, a desperate, pathetic digital ghost haunting the edges of a life I no longer have access to. His accounts are still blocked, fortresses I can't breach. But I found a loophole. His cousin, a sweet woman from Ohio I met once at a barbecue, has a public Instagram profile, and it is my own personal circle of hell. I scroll through her photos for hours, my thumb raw, my eyes burning. I'm looking for him, a glimpse, a shadow in the background, anything. Most nights there's nothing, but last night there was. A new post, a carousel of photos from a family birthday party, and there he was in the fourth picture. He's standing in a backyard, holding a paper plate with a slice of cake. He's thinner. There are shadows under his eyes, but he's standing. He's existing. He isn't smiling, not really, but his face is calm. It's the face of a man who has weathered a storm and is quietly rebuilding on the other side. He is moving on, one family party, one slice of cake at a time. And me, I'm here in the dark, the blue light of my phone illuminating my face. I'm the clown sitting alone in the empty big top after the crowd has gone home, the grease paint streaking my face. I keep refreshing the page again and again, as if a new picture will appear, a new piece of information that will either save me or destroy me completely. It's a pathetic, obsessive ritual. I am a spectator to the life that should have been mine, and every frame, every pixel is a fresh twist of the knife I stuck in my own back.